All right, back again. Can you believe we've done 67 of these, man? We are on round table number 67. Another all-star cast here, all-star panel. OG, my brother, Mario Munguia. And we got Maestro Al Boxing, the always outspoken one.
They're always outspoken.
Mighty Ring IQ joining us. Always a pleasure to have him on board. Let's get started, guys. Let's jump right in. Keith Thurman's back, right? After a 2-year layoff. Big question is he ready for the champions based off of that victory against Mario Barrios? That's what everyone wants to know. And I always say I wasn't watching Keith Thurman in there with Mario Barrios. I was envisioning him in there with other guys like Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Booth Ennis. I wasn't really gauging him off Mario Barrios, basically. I wanted to see from what I saw how he would match up against those guys. Let's get started with you, Maestro. Do you think Keith Thurman is back? Were you impressed at all with this performance? And do you think he's ready for the champions? Because he says he is.
Well, you've said I'm outspoken, Joe, so I'm just gonna get outspoken out of the gates. Right? I'm not gonna hold back on this one. When I was a youngin', they used to have these commercials, Bo knows baseball, Bo knows football, Bo knows track. Well, Maestro knows boxing, okay? And Maestro also knows mismatches. And Maestro also knows something called mierda. And that's what this was on Saturday night. Look, a lot of people were acting like, oh, well, Maestro, this is a 50-50 fight. How could you say this, Maestro? How could you say it's a 99.99 to 0.01% fight, Maestro? How dare you say that? And I kept telling everybody, this is a guy who got knocked out in his last fight, which was a defense of his Reggie title at 140. He got knocked out by a guy, as well a Reggie champion, whose previous fight had taken place at 130. How the hell does that prepare you to take on a former unified welterweight champion at 147? How the hell does that justify being on pay-per-view? Luckily I got a resident tech expert at the home. I rarely ever call him out. His name's Fulanito. Fulanito sometimes he comes out because he says, Maestro, this bill's gonna be too high this week, baby. $30 to see Eubank Jr. and another $75 to see this shit. Now Fulanito, he says we gotta get the IT skills ready. So is Keith Thurman back? He's back to being a gatekeeper for now at 147. Okay. He's not ready for Errol Spence Jr., for Ugas, and definitely not for Crawford. But if he is going to go for a title, I said this on Monday on Mano a Mano Live, he should try to get Uncle Al. Well, it's too late now. I was saying that he should try to get Uncle Al to steer Ugas towards Crawford and let him take on Spence, who may or may not have yet fully recovered from the eye injury, but that's gone. So where does he go next? Hopefully not Boots for him. Hopefully not Ortiz for him. Dare I say, I'm not going to go all the way to start talking about the youngin out there in the UK. I don't know if he's ready for Thurman just yet. Okay, and I'm talking about the Destroyer Ben, but they definitely got to stay away from these other dudes and wait around for another shot at the title, and I'm going to leave it at that for now.
What are your thoughts, Mario, on Thurman?
Yeah, look, I understand where Maestro's coming from. I do. I think that if I was looking at this fight at the time, like this was Thurman's, big shot, prize fight, back into the limelight, then I would be, more in line to what Maestro's saying. The issue for me is that 31 months out of the ring, it would be more of a mistake for you to jump into the Shark Tank than it would for you to dip your toe in and kind of see how you're feeling. 31 months is a long time. It's a long time. We're talking COVID months. It's not like he could have been in the gym all the time. There is a lot of different breaks. Being from Florida, obviously probably didn't isolate a lot, but still, we're talking COVID months. You know what I mean? It's slower. And, there were a lot of variables, I think, about this that make people talk a certain way about the Thurman fight. I thought the performance was fine. I thought it was good. There was never a point where I was watching this doing what you were doing, Beep, where I was envisioning, and maybe that was a mistake. Maybe I should have done that. And maybe I'm giving more credit, because I didn't look at that. I looked at who was in front of him. What was he doing? What was he trying to accomplish? And at the end of the day, he beat the brakes off this kid, beat the brakes off of him. And the fact that these 10-ounce gloves, weren't 8-ounce gloves like originally intended, I'm not going to say that would have been the knockout right there. He would have stopped him or anything like that sooner. All I'm saying is that definitely played a role. The memes out there where they're, comparing Mario Barrios to avatars, like he was beaten badly. And so you go to the, performance itself and you break down the numbers. It wasn't bad. He landed 181 total punches. I think he averaged somewhere just above 50 punches thrown. He landed 46 jabs compared to landing 135. That power punches. That ratio is not bad. Like, he showed that he was getting in there. He was trying to work. He himself said that it was I think he said like a C+, B- performance. And I think that if that's his idea of what he knows what he's capable of, that's a fair assessment. At the end of the day, though, Thurman allowed his career to kind of get away from him. If you look at his career as a circle in totality, it's impressive. And Maestro listed off all the accomplishments. But if you look at it linearly, right, and you go to moments and you focus in on these moments, you see that there's a lot of fights that were left on the table. You talk about all the guys he beat, but at the end of the day, he hasn't beaten anybody that solidifies the welterweight division. And I think the welterweight division has passed him up now. I think the guys that are at the top are better.
Any surprises, Ring? Did you see anything that you didn't expect to see, or did you think that Thurman's back and he's ready?
Thurman's not back. Thurman's not coming back as far as I'm concerned. He's cannon fodder, and that's not just for the champions. I've always thought Crawford would beat him before the inactivity. I've always thought that. Now, to me, he's a semi-pro. He's a semi-retired fighter, and the only reason he's back is for a cash out. Any solid fighter, and I'll go as far as saying that, devoid of champions, I would pick Virgil Ortiz to knock him out. I'd pick Boots Ennis to knock him out. I'd pick Radzav Butaev to knock him out. Any ambitious fighter that is there to fight will take him out because he's fighting with half a heart. The performance against a guy like Mario Barrios isn't the kind of performance you're supposed to gauge for a former unified champion. We're not supposed to mull over that. You ain't supposed to go 12 with that dude, bro. If you went 12, it's because you ain't what you used to be. 2015, 2014 Thurman knocks that Barrios out. But that's not the Thurman that we got in 2022. The Thurman that we got in 2022 is a dude that's fighting for a check and just a check. He's not going to go up to 54. He's already said that. He places no stock on pound for pound. And I read a lot into that because Floyd Mayweather cared enough about the pound for pound. He cared about that. He cared about being viewed in that scope. Terrence Crawford cares about that. The top fighters, the ones that are masters of their craft, they care about that type of stuff, being viewed in that light. He doesn't, because he is a prize fighter. No more, no less. And if you put him in there with somebody that is there to fight and is there to win and they're hungry, it doesn't matter if they're as unknown as Butaev or Stanionis or as buzzing as Jaron Boots Ennis. They will stop him. I believe that maybe they're going to figure out a way to get him to the winner of Ugas versus Spence. I'm not completely sold that the winner of Stanionis versus Butaev will get the winner of Ugas versus Spence. They'll find a way to get Thurman that guy because he is here to be cashed out. He's a familiar name. He's a familiar face. And his performance against somebody like Mario Barrios is irrelevant. Mario did absolutely nothing at 140, even less at 147. Thus, beating him there means nothing.
Yeah, he hasn't scored a knockout in a long time. I think the
7
mentality,
years.
Yeah,
7 years.
I think the mentality has definitely changed. Another disturbing thing that I see about him, every time he gets hit with a good body shot, takes that mouthpiece out and tries to get a breather. That's a sign of vulnerability. Something's up with that body. You know what I mean? Like, he gets hit with the body, and it's almost like he just short circuits for a couple of seconds. You know what I mean? No one likes to get hit to the body. Obviously, it hurts, but he really shows it. He doesn't have a good poker face when he gets hit in the body. He gets hurt, right? And
crazy too.
Yeah.
Because he seemed to really be working on his abs this training camp.
Yeah, and
sit-ups and stuff.
And the crazy thing is, like, when he runs out of room, because he likes to use those legs, he likes to circle. He's a kind of an ambush guy in and out. If he gets backed up against the ropes by an Errol Spence, and Errol Spence starts teeing off to that body, man, wow, there's gonna be no escape route for him. So yeah. And speaking of Errol Spence, this comes as no surprise. Supposedly the fight's going to be all set now. Errol Spence versus Yordenis Ugas, April 16th. It's going to be in Texas, Errol Spence's backyard. Big question I have is, what do you guys think about the fight? But not only that, can Yordenis Ugas get the benefit of doubt? Can he get a fair shake with Errol Spence as the A side and fighting in Errol Spence's backyard? Because this kind of gives me shades of when Ugas fought Sean Porter. I mean, I don't know if anyone on the panel think that Sean Porter won that fight, because I thought Ugas won that fight going away, really. So the big question is, I think this is a great fight. It's not Spence Crawford, but this is the next best thing, I think. Will Ugas get a fair shake? D-Star, welcome, man. Start with you.
Speak of the devil and he shall appear. What's going on, everybody? Look, let me tell you something. Strike one, he's Cuban. Well, we all know the Cubans don't get a fair shake when it comes to judging fights, no matter where they fight, right? One of the reasons I wanted the embargo to stay lifted, I believe, I don't know if it still is or isn't or whatnot, but I want the Cubans to be able to at least fight in their own home country. You know what I mean? Once in a while, get some home court, advantage. You know what I mean? But that aside, they're fighting in Texas, strike two. You know what I mean? Strike two, you're fighting in Texas. Strike three, you're fighting a Texan in this hometown of, it's not really in Dallas, it's in Arlington, but nonetheless, it might as well be in Dallas, right? So that's going to be a tough one for Ugas, you know what I mean? But if I'm not saying this would work, but if we keep mentioning it and saying it loud enough, maybe, the judges will hear it. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Now, I love the fight. I can't control the judging, okay? But I love the fight, all right? I'm a big fan of the fight. I think Ugas has a shot. I'm not saying this in a way. I don't know what I'm going to pick yet, right? But he's got a nice straight right. He could loop the right hand. And if Spence, as I mentioned in another show, if he messes up that high, and that's the X factor, we don't know. Nobody knows. All we could do is guess, right? If he's blind from the left, can he see that punch coming from this direction from Ugas? Just, I don't know if he will. It's just my personal opinion. But I love the fight, man. You're muted, Butte.
Welcome, Boxing Dev. How you doing?
Thank you so much. Sorry for the delay. I was taking a shower.
Don't worry about it. So Errol Spence or Yordenis Ugas, April 16th. What do you think of the fight? You think Ugas can get a fair shake here?
I think yes. I think Errol is not the same Errol Spence since the accident. So I think, and then the surgery on his eyes. So I think Ugas is going to beat him. I think yes. At the same way he did it with Manny Pacquiao. That's all for me.
Okay.
Yes, he knows how to fight against a suit pass. So I think it's going to be it's not going to be an easy fight, but it's going to be entertaining.
Okay. Well, what do you think of this fight, Ring? And do you think Ugas got a shot here?
Ugas does have a shot, but he can't get a fair shake on the cards. I think that the reason that Ugas fought so hard, I think most people don't realize this man went as far as going south of the border into South America to petition the WBA in person to allow him to fight Errol Spence Jr. And I think it's because he knows something that we don't know. He knows that this is my chance. I stand a way better chance against this Spence than gambling on an unbeaten young guy who wants to make a statement like a Stanionis. And I believe it's Errol Spence Jr.'s left eye that's messed up, which lines up with Ugas's right hand. Like Boxing Dev just mentioned, Ugas is coming off a fight in a southpaw, so he's ready. He's coming. He's worked those angles, and with Spence, it's like, look, if it's the Spence from 2017, Spence probably wins. The Spence that fought Danny, if it's that Spence, yeah, he can win, but he can also get hurt. But it's like, dog, I can't bank on a fighter that's coming off an injury and a year of inactivity. Plus, he was in a car accident where you landed on your fucking face. They had to put the chiclets in your shit to give you teeth back. It's like, I can't trust what's going to happen in that fight. So if the question is, does Ugas have a shot? He most certainly does, because we don't know what's going on with Spence. We don't know what the physical state of him is. So that means that, yeah, Ugas has got a shot. And it's more than a fighter's chance, more than a puncher's chance. He actually has a shot because he's decent and because he's not a small welterweight. He's not as small as Sean. He's not as small as Keith. He's not as small as Danny. So, yeah, he's got a shot.
On mute, beep.
What do you think of this fight, Maestro?
Maestro's on mute. Hey, what's going
Maestro's
on?
on mute too. I think
I don't want
dropped out.
He went away.
Go ahead, Mario.
I got you. Listen, I want to be very clear here. I don't have a dog in this fight. Okay, I'm not. It's not that I'm not a Spence fan or a Ugas fan. It's that I'm not rooting for one over the other. I want the best fighter to win. I want the best fighter to win so that best fighter can fight the best fighter we know of in the welterweight division, Terrence Crawford. That's what I want. Here's the issue with this fight. Okay. First of all, really quick, I want to address this about him getting a fair shake. I understand that notion. I do. I get it. But at the same time, sometimes it's twisted in a lot of ways. You know, we talked about Trout, and I'm going to go back a little far here, but with Canelo Trout, when they were in San Antonio, a lot of people had talked about that. You know, there were people that, you know, assumed that it was going to be a certain type of fight. And that's what I think we're going into this thinking it's going to be, you know, a boxing, you know, type of fight that needs to be judged. And you know, the scrutiny is going to be held on whether Ugas is going to get the benefit of the doubt. But to be the man, you have to beat the man. Ric Flair said that, and that motherfucker's still alive during COVID. Woo! So we know that he knows, and he knows. And that's the truth. It's like, if you want to be the guy and you already beat Pacquiao, your stock rose, but nobody was here saying, oh, now I want to see him versus Crawford. I want to see him versus Spence. We still heard, I want to see Crawford versus Spence. You know what I mean? It didn't catapult him the way that Mayweather beating De La Hoya catapulted him. It didn't catapult him the way that Pacquiao beating De La Hoya catapulted him. It did not do that. So at the end of the day, this matchup it's not stale. It's not bad. It's just not, it doesn't have that sexy, you know, commercial appeal. I don't think that it's going to be this, you know, massive fight for anyone outside of our community. You know, our community understands what this is, but to have a 19-month layoff, to be coming off of retina surgery, which I think it was for his right eye, these are all factors that are going to play into a fight that's already very, very close on paper. And so for me, I think the big thing for this fight is, can Spence go out there and deliver a performance that people remember? Because Ugas beat Pacquiao. Didn't matter how he did it. That W is on his resume, like Jeff Horn, you know, and so, you know, that sticks with you. You know, for Terrence Crawford, his last time out, he had a phenomenal performance against Sean Porter. So if you're Spence and you lost the Pacquiao shot, you know, people are still on you for not fighting Crawford. You have to go out there and you have to perform in a big way. You have to make a huge statement. And a guy like Ugas is not the kind of guy that you could do it. Barrios is that guy. You know, Thurman goes out there and ices him in 3 rounds. That's a statement. And that's the kind of statement you can make against a guy like that. But at the top of the top level, no, it doesn't work that way. So for me, I think that that's the most important aspect of this fight. Can Spence go out there and deliver against a guy that is not easy to manage, not easy to handle? We'll see. Also, it's going to be very difficult, I think, to have this fight. I don't want to say sell out or anything, because, I mean, you know, it's Cowboy Stadium, but we're going to see. We're going to see how many people are interested in this fight for sure. It's going to come across.
Shout out to Tommy Boxeus. Says, salute to the Roundtable, the best roundtable in the game. Cheers. Thank you so much, Tommy.
Shout out to you, brother. Maestro,
what do you think, brother?
Well, first of all, I agree with my brother Mario. This isn't Thurman Barrios. You know, it's been a while since we saw one time, you know. And in many ways, it's like the old fairy tales we used to hear. It's, once upon a time, it's going to kind of be like Shrek in the future when you're looking at Keith Thurman. They're going to be flicking the pages through some old book, talking about how he was once upon a time, a great guy that could knock out people like Barrios, but I digress. We move over to the topic of discussion right now, which is this fight taking place in Texas. And I think that's got to be the big takeaway from the announcement of this fight. It's going to be a close fight. So that means that Errol Spence is going to win because Ugas is not knocking out Errol Spence Jr., and I just don't see that. Errol Spence is a very durable guy. And if Errol Spence loses by 3 rounds in Texas, that's like a win by 5. So I don't know if you guys remember the name Gail Van Hoy. Gail Van Hoy had Diaz beating Malignaggi 118-110 in Texas. Now people might say, oh, well, Maestro, it's improved a lot since then, really? Because I had Brian Castano clearly winning that fight against Jermell Charlo. And that fight, certain people think it was a Charlo win, but in my eyes, there's no way Charlo was going to lose in Texas in that kind of a fight that one might argue was relatively close. I thought it was Castano by 2-3 rounds, but that's just my opinion. Thankfully for Castano, the rematch is taking place at the Crypto Arena and not in Texas. Ugas, an Afro-Cuban with 0 to maybe 1,000, somewhere between those two numbers of like diehard fans of his in this country. He ain't bringing that kind of muscle, he ain't bringing that kind of clout to the table. This is like Mo Green flexing on The Godfather and Godfather 2. Undressing them, telling them the Corleone family don't have that kind of muscle anymore. I don't know if Ugas ever had that kind of muscle. I'm still kind of surprised, to be honest, that he got the win against Pacquiao. Not because I don't think he deserved it, but because usually in situations like that, guys like that don't get the nod. But the big difference there is that was Vegas and this is Texas. So I think it's a bad sign for Ugas, in my opinion.
I want to say one thing.
Go ahead, Ring.
Bad things happen in threes. And there's a point of contention here because bad things happen in threes. So what has happened in twos so far? The car accident, the eye injury. This could be number 3 because I can see Errol I can see him getting stopped. I can see it. And it's like I'm in agreement with everything Maestro said about, the fight being in Texas. That's definitely relevant because it's true. Ugas is going to have to hit that man with a chair and then shoot him to get a decision, right? With Errol, I don't know what we got, bro. I don't know what we got. This dude get hit in his eye, man. He could go out.
That's right. Go out. I want to add this. I mean, the fight with Abel Ramos in 2020, Ugas dominated the fight. And 2 judges had it close for him. And another judge scored it 111, 117 for Ramos, which is almost impossible, right? But now add that fact to that. Now he's going to be fighting Errol Spence, who is one of the biggest names, at least on the PBC side. Okay, so they definitely, I would think they want him to win. So he's the A side. He's from Texas. It's in Texas. Like Ugas, has had a hard time getting close decisions. He's Cuban. I'm just saying.
Ugas and Robson Consacao remind me a lot of each other, the way they fight.
Good call.
They have a style, both of them, where I like to use this analogy. They get a lot out of doing a little. So they have a lot of subtle movement, and Ugas fights like in a tight circle. He moves just enough to create the punching angle for himself, but to make you have to reset and follow him. And he's not greedy with the punches either. He throws a lot of pesky shots, a lot of throwaway punches to try to open up his offense. and he's a good counter puncher, right? So a lot of times when I'm watching a fight from Ugas, I'm seeing him land these little pesky shots, right? They're not snapping his opponent's head back, but they're scoring points, right? And sometimes judges don't give you credit for that. Throws a lot of body shots up close, right? And maybe the judges don't see that. And I had him winning the Porter fight 9-3, but Joe Goosen and the rest of the broadcast team was telling me it was a close fight. And again, I'm not the best scorer in the world. Sometimes my scorecard doesn't align with the consensus scoring out there. But I just thought that Ugas clearly won that fight. I just saw him outworking Porter, mixing up the shots. Now Spence doesn't have the quickest feet in the world, and he kind of moves in straight lines. He's not as effective in the center of the ring as if when he corners someone and backs him up against the ropes. That's when he's at his best. That's when he can start teeing off. He's a stalker. Ugas is kind of a boxer / counterpuncher, right? And I think this style can be very problematic for Spence because Spence is going to try to step forward, and I just think that Ugas is going to keep turning him. He's going to keep moving just enough to make Spence have to reset his feet, and because he doesn't have the quickest feet in the world, he may have a hard time getting off against Ugas. So I think this fight is very interesting, and I got a feeling that I may have an 8-4, 9-3 scorecard at the end of this fight as I'm scoring it, and the judges are probably going to have it entirely different than what I have it. So, it's nothing new, right? It happens all the time. A lot of times you watch one fight, someone else sees another,
I just want to say something. I think the Cuban's legs can bother everybody, and I think Ugas can use that in his the technique. The technique is on Ugas' way, so I think he's going to beat with technique, outboxes him, and boxing, boxing, because it's something that Errol Spence hasn't got.
Yeah, he's crafty.
The one thing
I hope Ugas wins, by the way, because that Crawford fight's more likely if Ugas wins.
Yeah,
that's the point I was going to make. That's the point I was going to make. There's a part of me, even though I said at the very beginning of my spiel that I wasn't rooting for any one of them. There's a part of me that is like mildly curious to see Ugas win, and only for like the poetic justice of having guys, Thurman and Crawford and Spence, not fight after all this time. And then for this guy, Ugas, who has wanted all the smoke with everybody, right? To fight Sean Porter, not get the decision despite what people think, and to come in, beat Pacquiao off of Spence's eye injury, right? Get that reward. And then to come and then beat Spence and solidify himself and surpass like that, it would be I don't want to say anybody deserves or anything like that, but it would be poetic justice in my opinion.
Yeah.
I had one other fight real quick to mention in Texas for all the people. Oh, Maestro, these are all old examples you're giving. Well, what about Carlos Sucre's score? 117-111 for Estrada over Chocolatito. I mean, if we get a Carlos Sucre involved, plus a Gail Van Hoy and maybe a Dickie Cole or a Lawrence Cole, are you really thinking that any of those types of judges are going to be giving it to Yordenis Ugas?
Well, they might not.
You can argue that won that fight. I don't see how you can argue he won that fight 117-111.
Well, I don't see how anybody can argue with you that there aren't any recent relative scorecards, because the fact is when all that stuff was going down between 2010, 2014, and it seemed like every year Texas had major issues, they stopped putting really big fights. I'm not saying big fighters didn't fight in Texas, but name some of the last competitive big time fights, where the scorecards weren't askew. Like the people have been off of Texas for a while, just started to, kind of ramp back up. So, in my opinion, that's why there isn't any recent evidence, because there's, no evidence to produce.
Yeah, they're just coming back. Go ahead, Ring.
I just want to say that if Errol Spence loses that fight, that's gonna be so much fun, though.
Oh, for the yeah!
Oh my God! If he loses that, I'm like Mario. I gave up on a Crawford fight. It's done, bro. I gave up, right?
I feel you
so
on that.
I'm not even where I'm pining for it anymore. But my God, if he loses that, oh my God,
Bro,
That'll be crazy, man.
that
Bro,
would be
that's-
nuts.
that's gonna be one of the best Sunday mornings of the year. I'm gonna laugh so fucking hard, bro. I might spend the whole night laughing. Oh my God.
Bro,
And
I'm
a lot
sitting
of
on
other people-
on my fake Twitter account, just seeing it.
And a
with
lot of other
popcorn.
people, will be out there crying, trying
Oh,
to
that's-
say, oh, he didn't lose. It was this, it was that.
God, it's gonna be like
Gary Russell. Gary Russell didn't lose.
No, because Gary, you know
That
what?
was hilarious.
There were moments that were open to interpretation with Gary and Mixayo, though I did have Mixayo winning, but there were moments that were open to interpretation.
Sure.
See, Fury versus Wilder 2. Oh God, that was so fucking funny, bro. Watching that shit, yo, I was laughing my fucking ass off watching that shit.
That was crazy.
And if Spence go out and not even to be cruel, because I don't want to be cruel, but it's the fanatics and the fanaticism that it's like you're like, oh my God, you guys must be you feel awful, don't you?
It's not like you're rooting against Spence, but you're rooting against his fans.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's fucked up that it's got to be like that sometimes, but that's the way it is.
I'm rooting against a culture in boxing that has the best fighters at the top, not fighting the best fighters that they know are there. You know what I mean? Like that's to me, that's where the poetic justice of it comes, is that you didn't want these fights for a very long time. And then if Ugas beats you, now, now you don't matter in that fight anymore. You know what I'm saying? So
got you.
That's what happened to Thurman, man. Before it was about Crawford and Spence, it was about Thurman and Spence. And Thurman didn't want to hear about it.
100%.
All right, Thurman.
There we go. All right, speaking of layoffs, supposedly, according to Oscar De La Hoya, we're going to get Ryan Garcia back in the ring against Emmanuel Tagoe. And this is supposed to be on April 9th. It's a 15-month layoff for Ryan Garcia. First of all, is this the right fight for Ryan Garcia? And is he actually going to go through with this? I mean, it seems like it's set. Let's cross our fingers. And also, too, looks like Kambosos is going to kind of wait till July or August, the summertime, before he defends those titles. Could this be a stay busy fight for Ryan and just go right into that Kambosos fight? Is that the fight that's going to be next for Kambosos? Very interesting here. Mario, is this the right fight at the right time? And will Ryan Garcia go through with this? And could he get Kambosos in the summertime?
Yeah, here's the thing, right? I do like the fight because I don't want to have Ryan Garcia just come back against somebody without a pulse. Now, Tagoe, he represents, in my opinion, a tough enough fight coming off of a 15-month layoff for a guy who's as young as Ryan Garcia, setting him on that course for Kambosos, because I don't know if everybody's caught this or not. It was in the news, but not really in the news. Supposedly, Kambosos is promoted by
Lou DiBella, and Emmanuel Tagoe promoted by Lou DiBella. Yeah.
Yes, and supposedly DiBella called Robert Garcia thinking it was Robert Diaz. Y'all heard this, right?
Yeah.
Called Robert Garcia thinking it was Robert Diaz. And Robert Garcia at first didn't realize what was going on. He said, "Hey, Robert, how you doing?" So that's his name. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm good." And they're friends. So, it wasn't anything out of the usual. Robert Garcia wasn't being sneaky about it. But Lou just goes off and starts telling him all the details about Kambosos and Tagoe and everything that they planned. And, Robert, he's a good guy. He hasn't, said anything in the media specifically about what was said. But when you piece everything together about what wasn't said and what's been said by Lou and everybody else, this seems to be exactly what's going on. They are going to put Ryan Garcia in this fight, and then it seems like Ryan Garcia Kambosos is very, very likely for the summer, maybe slightly after. And I think that this is a good plan. This works out very well. Emmanuel Tagoe, look, he just came off of his own layoff, right? And beat who was it? Mason Maynard, who's a guy who, he's been in there with Teofimo, he's been in there with Devin Haney, and now obviously Tagoe didn't do to Maynard what those guys did. But ultimately, he at least gives some sort of pushback in a fight for Ryan Garcia where it's the stepping stone to get to the big fight. That's what I like. He's from Ghana. He's tough. Guys from Ghana are very tough, and he's also a guy who's not going to let you do what you want to do. You know what I mean? He has his style, but he's very disruptive too. I mean, I don't think he uses his head in a malicious way, but he uses his head in a smart way. You know what I mean? Like you're going to get those accidental butts, whatever, but ultimately he's not going to make it easy for Ryan Garcia. And those are the kind of fights that I want to see. Those are the kind of fights that are going to help him grow.
Okay. D, could we get a possible banana peel here, or what do you think?
I think Ryan should win. I mean, if when you have to resort to saying, "Hey, he's from Ghana," you know, I mean, I'm just saying, Mario, like those guys are tough. You know, I'm just saying,
All right, be careful now. Be careful.
Cool. No, but like it's like
Isaac Dogbe is from Ghana too, and he's a really good boxer.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not.
Be careful. You're gonna be careful with that now.
No. What I'm saying is kind of like when
you're
people are like,
you're gonna get canceled.
Well, hold on. It's like when people are saying like, oh, he's gonna fight a Mexican warrior, but it's like some cab driver from Tijuana. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's I'm just messing. But look, check it out, okay? I think Ryan should win, and I'm gonna predict right now, he's gonna get the Kambosos fight.
I think so too.
Not Haney, not Loma. It's going to be Ryan Garcia.
Boxing Dev, what do you think of this fight?
I think it's a good fight for Ryan to come back because he was with a mental problem, with depression, and then an injury. So, and both at the same time. So, I think not Kambosos, not Pitbull Cruz, not Lomachenko, not Haney. I think this is a really good fight. Tagoe knows how to use the jab, and Garcia doesn't know how to use the distance. So I think it's a good fight in all of the ways. Yes, Garcia should win. He should win. But I think the opponent is really good for him. He's a man from Ghana. People from Ghana is strong. So it is not the majority of the boxer from Ghana. You can see 1, 2, but that 1 and 2 are really good. Isaac Dogbe is from Ghana and he's really good. He's a warrior. So I think it's going to be a good fight to prove Garcia too, because he was throwing beef to everybody. Manny Pacquiao, Teofimo Lopez, David Haney, Lomachenko, now Kambosos, Pitbull Cruz. Come on. Who else? Who is the next? Dan Davis too. So he has not a show. Do you know what everybody here knows what happened when Garcia was trained down with Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell punched him and threw him down. So I think it's a good fight for this to prove this person again because he's really young. He's a good boxer. He has the stamina. He has no chow, but he has practiced with in the journey. He has practiced this. So I think it's a good fight.
Okay.
Agreed.
Ring, is Garcia going to show up on April 9th?
It's a good fight. I'm of the opinion. I share Lucia's opinion. It's a good fight for him. It's a good fight. The main thing with Emmanuel Tagoe for me is that he's only boxed outside of Ghana for, I think, 2 times. So that tells me about his experience level, that he hasn't been out of Ghana very many times. It's a good fight, but unfortunately, it has been announced that Erickson Lubin is going to be boxing Sebastian Fundora in a WBC eliminator, and there's it is a high probability I'll be watching that because I actually think Ryan's going to knock out Emmanuel. I've seen Emmanuel a couple of times. He's all right. He's a good fighter, but there's little things and little moments where he can be caught. I think that Ryan will still have his speed, and he's going to set him up. I do think he's going to knock him out. It's a good fight though. Like you can't complain about the fight because there are worse guys to come back against. This guy's got a record of I think 32-1. That's a good record. It's a good record. Maybe it's not all world beaters, but it's a good record, and it's really not a bad comeback fight. My thing is that if Ryan gets the Kambosos fight, I'll be very, very, very critical of George. Very critical of George.
Wow.
I don't actually know that I know that that's what they want, and that much I can see. The problem is Vasyl Lomachenko is number 1 via the WBO. If it's George's plan to wait until May or July, an order may come down in between now and May and July. Ryan is not a mandatory for any belt that you have. So you may be put in a position where if you really, really, really want to fight Ryan, you have to give Vasyl Lomachenko the brown belt. You'll still have 2 that you can fight with Ryan over, but you have to sacrifice that if it means that much to you. And if he does that, yeah, George is a sucker, bro. He's a sucker if he do that. He's a sucker.
Okay. Fair enough. Maestro.
Yeah,
Does Tagoe have a shot here?
I agree with bits and pieces of what people are saying. I mean, I agree with Ring talking about the record, but then I also know that most of those wins were at the domestic level in Ghana, and I think he's only fought outside of Ghana twice. Once being the last time where he got a majority decision against Mason Menard. Now he does have a loss, but that loss came in his first fight. But the records of guys that fight at home domestically, whether they're from South Africa or Namibia or Ghana or Colombia for that matter, are always questioned and scrutinized later on because, sometimes those guys pan out, like a Nazuma Nelson, or a Ike Corte, and sometimes they don't, Do I think it's a good or bad fight for Ryan? I think it's a good fight for Ryan, and I'll tell you why. We're talking about it. This is a guy that hasn't fought in how long? The fact that he can fight the second best lightweight from Ghana, and we're talking about the fight, just shows you that, quite honestly, it doesn't really matter who this dude fights in this comeback fight. Because, yes, I still think Kwame is the best lightweight out of Ghana, for the record. So he's fighting the second best lightweight from Ghana, and it's a topic on the Roundtable. So clearly the dude's doing his thing. You know what I mean? Now, I always found it ironic that the guy who won the WBC interim title, which I never even understood why needed to exist, because Devin Haney was an active fighter, is then the guy that goes out for a prolonged period of time. I don't know if anyone sees the irony in that, but it didn't escape me. And now he's coming back and he's fighting, I never understood the Pitbull Cruz thing. I mean, why not just fight Tank Davis? He didn't look that great against Pitbull Cruz. I guess he needs a tune-up fight to fight these guys. Will I be watching? I'm probably going to do what Ring's going to do and probably catch it later on, especially if it's on DAZN, because I can catch it on demand. So I'm not excited about the fight, but then I don't think I'd be excited about anyone he's fighting whose name isn't Devin Haney, George Kambosos Jr., Vasyl Lomachenko, or Tank Davis. Is what it is.
Just quickly to piggyback off of what Ring said, imagine a guy like Lomachenko, Devin Haney getting passed over by Ryan, having Ryan Garcia take their spot. That's crazy, man. That is kind of crazy because those guys have, done the work. They've been active, they've been in tough fights, and Ryan Garcia is just going to come back and just slide right into that spot. That is kind of fucked up.
But is it? But okay. And look, I'm not making this statement like to debate because I think it is fair. I absolutely 100% agree with you from, a sporting contest type of thing, you know what I mean? Where rules are set and we have the way things work. But to a degree, does Kambosos deserve to get Ryan Garcia? I mean, nobody else stepped up to fight each other in this time where Teofimo had the belts. He takes the belts in a fight that most people did not think he had a chance. And a lot of people thought that, he wasn't going to win, period, whether it was close or not. But at the end of the day, does he deserve a fight? If his next fight is against Ryan Garcia, then there's still plenty of time for Devin Haney and Tank. Go ahead, my bad, D.
Well, really quick. I agree with most of what he said, except for Loma. Loma, since lost to Tio, okay?
Oh, good point.
Nakatani, okay, and he fought Comey. Ain't no other lightweight fight better opposition than Loma, of the guys that are quote-unquote candidates that apparently, by the way, can we all agree now that this is running on the victory tour?
Let me push back on that just for a second, because I do think that Linares and Jojo Diaz are pretty good wins for
Yeah,
Haney.
those are solid wins for Haney.
Great wins.
I wouldn't say they're any shorts.
You know what? One of them's leftover Loma, but I got you. You know.
Go ahead, Ring.
I want to say this. If Devin screws the pooch, Devin screws the pooch. And I see that he's screwing the pooch. That's what I see.
Think he's pricing himself out?
Yes. I don't think he wants to make the sacrifice that he needs to make. Like, yes, make the sacrifice. You're not going to make what you want to make, but it's worth it. Go down there, become undisputed. You can beat this guy. You won't beat Loma if he gets those belts back. I'll tell you that, right? You won't beat him. You need another 2 years for him to slow down a little more for you to beat him. Now, if Haney screws the pooch, I don't pity him. But with Lomachenko, what's the difference? He's number one. He's made you an offer. If you refuse said offer so that you could fight Crying Ryan, yeah, man, we got to
Crying Ryan.
Crying Ryan, bro.
I'm not buying it either. And if they can't get the fight, why not fight each other, Lomachenko and Haney?
I guess
I will say though, I think we all agree Haney or Loma definitely deserve more than that.
100%.
I think it's even, D-Star, because just as Linares was a quote-unquote leftover for Loma.
I'm just
I
No,
want to say,
to be honest, Comey and Nakatani were also leftovers for Teofimo. So
That's true.
and it goes both ways. I think they cancel each other out.
the point is that anybody want to get robbed in Australia. I think David Haney is not going to be robbed because he's going to lose against Kambosos. But I think Loma, I think he doesn't want to get robbed against Kambosos in Australia. I think that's the reason that the promoters don't get the fight, because it's really easy to Eddie Hearn to make a fight. It's really easy for Bobarum to make the fight too. So why is Ryan Garcia is going to get Kambosos next? Because Oscar De La Hoya is going to make it true.
Yeah,
but see, I think y'all are looking at it wrong, though. It's not. Yes, I get it. Ryan Garcia is getting these shots that he doesn't deserve, 100%. But can we also argue that Kambosos is being rewarded with the lowest risk, highest reward fight?
Yeah, which you're saying, Mario.
Devin's a tougher fight, right? Loma's a tougher fight. That's what everybody's saying. But none of them have the mass appeal that Ryan Garcia has. The fight that beating Teofimo skyrocketed. Yes, it's true. He skyrocketed after he beat Teofimo. He's on Joe Rogan. He's doing the rounds on New York talk shows. He's becoming a sports figure in America. Beating Ryan Garcia opens that platform even more in ways that doesn't happen if he fights Devin.
Mario, can I say this, Mario? If he would have knocked out Ryan Garcia, I'd be over the moon. I'd do a lap around this. If he would have
the sponsors.
I'm seriously, that'd be the greatest fucking thing that ever happened in the history of Australian boxing. The problem that I have is Ryan pulled out on Linares, pulled out on Fortuna, pulled out on Diaz.
That's
he didn't want to fight Hank, bro, so that he can be the fucking one.
I agree with all of that, 100%. I agree with that. But again, I'm not looking at it from Ryan Garcia's point. I'm looking at it from Kambosos.
No, Mario, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mario, but what you're saying is Kambosos earned the right to maybe get a softer touch.
Exactly.
It sounds like
value.
Because he
like
just
Mario's
faced
trying to protect Kambosos, what it sounded like to me.
No, not at all. You think Kambosos isn't going to fight him? You don't think he's going to fight him?
Let me buy you a suit. It's a nice sunglass.
Look, he's a nice kid. He's got good tattoos, but I'm just being real that if you got Haney and Loma in front of you, right, and you choose Ryan, it's up to you to do whatever you want. I'm gonna just interpret it as okay. You wanted the path of least resistance.
I'm gonna be honest with you, and as I'm not gonna speak as a fan, I'm just gonna speak as if I was in Kambosos' team and if I was his promoter or advisor. I would take the Garcia fight,
of course.
I think it's the greatest amount of reward for the lowest amount of risk.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
Joe, that part I disagree with. The risk is that the guy's going to bail and not go through with the fight.
That's a very good point. That's
out there too. That's out there too. I can't argue with that.
Because but what is it? But at the end of the day, I have an issue. I have mental illness. I got to pull out. I'm sorry. It is what it is. It's a real thing. Hey, by the way, Superman, let me keep my interim belt because I'm depressed. And then we're back to square one.
It's in the same position he was in with Teofimo. And I'm not saying that was Teofimo's
and I'm not convinced. Look, obviously, I get what you're saying. Like how big of a name he is with how much of a threat he is ratio is maybe better than a Loma or a Haney, but I'm not convinced. I'm just not that Ryan is as big of a star as people make him out to be. There's no way to verify that. We don't have the numbers from DAZN. There's no rating we could look at or nothing like that, in my opinion. I mean, all his sold out venues were when he was on the undercard of a Canelo fight. You know what I mean?
He certainly is.
I always thought that the good fight too for Gambosis would have been a fight with Tank Davis, both stylistically and in terms of name.
But that's not gonna happen. Look,
no, I know, because LB got on camera and said, "This guy, what does he bring to the table?"
They're not fighting. Yeah, they're not fighting.
Yeah, they're not. They're gonna fight Rolly, and Rolly might hit him with a book bag punch, a big old
book bag punch.
He fuck around, not listen, man. Y'all better be careful. Y'all better be careful. He might knock that motherfucker out.
That's
a Molly Whopper. A Molly Whopper, right?
A Molly Whopper, yeah. That's hilarious, yo. That's hilarious.
All right. Shout out to Pull Check Boxing. Says salute to the panel. Thank you so much, brother. Let's move on to this next topic because correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, right? The IBF finally has ordered Filip Hrgović versus Zhilei Zhang, who's ranked number 12. Now, I have never seen someone go through 9 opponents before they can get to number 12. So I've never seen a mandatory have to go all the way to the 12th ranked guy, right? Which is crazy to me. Now, they have 15 days to negotiate this before it goes to purse bids. Now, if for some reason this falls through, should the IBF just make Hrgović the mandatory and just – I mean, they're running out of guys. What else could they do at this point? They went all the way down to 12. I've never seen this in my life. D-Style, go ahead, man. Is this crazy or what?
One word answer, yes. I mean, well, what are they going to do? All the way to 30 or what? Like, when does it end? Like, you know what I mean? And then you got to ask yourself, does it even make sense to do that? Like, should the number 12 guy get a title shot if he wins the fight? Like, shouldn't ratings mean something? To me, it should go as far as maybe 4, maybe 5. After that, you're automatically the mandatory, in my opinion. Right? Plus, the IBF, they got to get rid of that stupid vacant number 1 spot. Okay, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. All right? Like it's just dumb. It makes no sense. There's a reason nobody else does it in any other sport. You'll never see ratings of tennis and like the number 1 spot's vacant. Okay, you'll never see ratings in golf and when the number 1 spot's vacant. Okay, UFC doesn't vacant, MMA ratings will do that. But anyway, just give Hrgović the damn title shot already. That's how I feel about it. You send a message to the rest of the division like, yo, if you don't fight him now, well, I guess he's getting the title shot. And what you do when a guy doesn't want to fight somebody, you move him down the rankings. All right. You're number 5. You know what? We're going to put you outside of the top 10 now because you don't want to engage in the elimination process. So we're going to have to move you out of here. I think that's what they should do and get rid of that stupid one thing. Plus, I mean, who wouldn't be scared of this dude, right? His name rhymes with hurt the bit. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
That's real shit. That's scientifically proven. It does rhyme. I checked.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
But it does rhyme.
No,
that's pretty clever. That's pretty clever.
I didn't say the word though.
Maestro, what's going on with this, man? Should Hrgović just be the mandatory by now?
I met Zhilei Zhang, really nice guy. Stays around for the fans literally until the end and takes photos. But I mean, I went through a whirlwind of emotions when I saw him fight Jerry Forrest. I didn't know if I should laugh, if I should feel bad about laughing. Maybe I'm a bad person for laughing at this guy that got tired literally 2 rounds into a heavyweight fight. I mean, this dude was exhausted. I mean, literally they had the paramedics ready for him at the end of this fight because he could barely stand up for just sheer exhaustion. And by the way, Jerry Forrest didn't look like he was in the greatest shape that night either. That fight was literally an embarrassment to what heavyweight boxing should represent. Anyone who watches that and says, wow, this is heavyweight boxing, walks away with an idea that like it's essentially a tough man contest between guys that get tired real fast and literally whoever can breathe oxygen at the end of the fight wins. I mean, it was ugly. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is who Filip Hrgović is going to be fighting for the mandatory spot. Eddie Hearn mustn't have been too happy when the Forrest fight happened, because up until that point, and up until the win by Usyk against Joshua, I thought that they were positioning Zhilei Zhang for some kind of big Beijing fight at the Bird's Nest, the former Olympic Stadium, against AJ. That clearly is never going to happen anymore. But look, Hrgović is going to win this fight. Zhilei Zhang, for a guy who's, I believe, fought in at least 2 Olympic Games, I mean, he just doesn't seem to really put it all together, I think. And, you'd have to talk to my brother Boxing Squared for a little bit more insight on the dude. But whenever I've seen him fight, I just never come across as, wow, this guy is like a top contender level, or this guy has championship qualities, But hey, here we go. They're not going to be able to run from Filip much longer after this fight, that's for sure. And yes, Joe, I agree. It is absurd that they need to go to this guy to determine who's going to get a heavyweight shot. I mean, Dempsey McKean, the Australian, didn't want any of it, right? Joe Parker, he passed. Andy Ruiz, Murat.
Who's going to fight next? The popcorn vendor?
Michael Hunter.
They're running out of people, right? Guys selling the hot dogs? What's going on there?
Tony Yoko was on this list, but he obviously has the Martin Bacoli fight scheduled, and tried to his credit. I don't know if it's to his credit, but he did try to take this fight. He was one of the few people who agreed to it, but the IBF wouldn't allow it because he'd already signed off to fight Martin Bacoli, who, by the way, was dropped by Matchroom. So they're going to be fighting in France.
This isn't exactly Dickstown. I just want to say that.
Yeah, so I will take Yoka off of that list, But everybody else, it's like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. What do you think, Bots and Dev? Is this a real heavyweight eliminator? A guy ranked number 1, or technically he's ranked number 3, because number 1 and 2 are not rated. So you got a number 3 versus a number 12.
Those 3 were not rated.
How ridiculous is this?
Okay, everybody is going to say everything about it, but I think it's going to be a good fight.
Okay,
I think yes.
I love your optimism.
I like Zhang. I think he has nothing to lose against this Croat boxer Filip. So I think Zhang is a really good puncher. He punched, but he sold. He's 38. That's the problem here, and that's why he has nothing to lose. Because if he loses against the best contender, it's okay. He can go to the top, not to the top. Puede remontar su carrera. I don't know how to say it in English, but he can
kickstart his career, elevate his career.
Thank you. And I think it's going to be a good match. I think Zhang is going to take the fight. And Filip, okay, he's the best contender, but he hasn't all of the skills to be in the top. Okay, he was Olympian. His record is 14-0, 12 knockouts. It's good, but he has not the skills like, I don't know, maybe Anthony Joshua, Usyk, Fury, Deontay Wilder. Ortiz was going to be a good fight, but Ortiz has an injury, so okay, Zhang is going to be okay to prove him.
Okay, is this a worthy fight, Ring, for a mandatory title shot?
This is one of the most excellent fights I've ever seen in 39 years of life. Clearly, China versus Croatia. All jokes aside, I disagree with Lucia a little bit. There's little things that Hrgovic does that I see why they don't want him, and it's very hard to pick up. But there's little things that he does that I see why they don't want this guy. He does these little things, and he can punch. So I get it. As far as Zhang, I've been saying it for like a month. It's gonna be Zhang, bro. They're gonna go down this whole list and watch it end up being Zhang. I just don't want Zhang to get too hurt because I do see him getting knocked out. I just don't want him to get too hurt because he's old. And it reminds me of when Foreman came back when I was young and he was doing Meineke commercials. And I just liked him because he was old and fat and he used to smile. I didn't have no concept of a lot. I'm like, I don't want the guy to get too hurt. You know what I mean? I don't want Zhang to get too hurt. I admire his courage because he's 38, 30, whatever years old, and he's willing to take this guy on. I admire that about him, but he's going to lose. He's going to lose. And I don't think it'll take long to get him out of there either.
Gotcha. Mario, what do you think of this fight, man?
Yeah, listen, this is the kind of fight you get when you go down the list, like you said, Viv. I don't like just promoting somebody like that without existential reasons. And obviously there are plenty here, but you know, at the end of the day, if somebody's going to fight, then somebody's going to fight. You know, Zhilei Zhang is a guy who has an amateur, a decent amateur pedigree, or more than decent amateur pedigree. And you know, he's super tall. What is he? He's like, man, he's like 6'7", maybe.
I think. 6'8".
So yeah, you might be right. You know, he is a little older, but you know, I know his coach Sean. His team is really good. He's a good guy, like Maestro said. I mean, I knew Maestro met him right away just by talking about his mannerisms and stuff and the way he is with fans. You know, he's a really good guy. But ultimately, I think that we saw something in that Jerry Forrest fight that shows that, you know, he isn't cut from the same cloth as the top, you know, 3, top 5, maybe even top 10 in the heavyweight division. But that said, Hrgovic hasn't proven himself either. You know, he has wins against Eric Molina, Mario Heredia, Rydell Booker. You know, none of these names inspire or give you the ability to measure his caliber at a real level. You know, the biggest things about Hrgovic that you can say from the professional level is that he has 12 KOs and 14 wins. He's undefeated, and he has some sparring with Wilder that made him look really good. You know, that's it. You know, there's no other real dynamic there. So this is a fight that he can't just win. If Hrgovic wants to be a serious contender and you know, achieve some of the things that Maestro had said that, you know, we thought were being set up, he has to go out there and he has to deliver in a big way. He's got to get a knockout. He's got to make the big man fall. I mean, imagine seeing a guy like Zhang, as big as he is, on a highlight reel falling down. That shit's like fucking timber. You know, they're going to call Hrgovic the fucking, you know, tree slammer after this. Like, like it's, you know, it could be a thing. It could be a thing that we talk about, but ultimately, you know, he's got to go in there and put in the work.
Yeah.
You know, I think the one thing, like Ring brought up, there's something about Hrgovic. He reminds me of Foreman. And when I say reminds me, I don't want people, oh, you can't compare him to Foreman. You can't mention him in the same breath. He's not the same guy. No, they share a similarity. Foreman had them big, heavy lunchbox fists.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he could throw like a 6-inch punch and knock you across the ring.
Good point.
Hrgovic is the same way. Like, he's the type of guy when he throws a punch at you and you block it, he's still moving you and he's still hurting you because he's hitting you, and he's just so heavy-handed that he has such blunt force trauma in his fists that even when you block the shot, even when he's not pulling back and torquing it, he's just throwing a short punch, he can hurt you. So the guy is just naturally heavy-handed. He's got that clubbing type power. And I think that's very scary for a lot of these guys. And I think that is a big reason why these guys don't want to fight him. Because, you know, you're going to get hurt even if he doesn't even hit you clean.
There's little things that he does too. He gets a lot out of a little bit, which is what I see that they didn't like about him. He's like, he looks like he's run of the mill, like, oh, he's just a hard puncher. But if you just look in between there to what he's doing when shots are being thrown at him and how he sets up his own shots, he's pretty fucking good, bro. Like, he's pretty fucking good.
I want to double down on that because I was ringside to see him when he fought on the Devin Haney, Jojo Diaz undercard. And yeah, I mean, subtle head movement, keeping his head off center line, really using his legs too in the way he throws punches, his legs and his hips, like little subtle things that you can look at, like Ring was saying, that make all of the difference in terms of
guys.
Power. And in terms of being able to fight in transition from offense to defense. Sorry, Joe.
No, he'll step around you and just, like, you know, make a little subtle move, step around you, just throw a little clubbing shot and hit you on the top of the head, and you'd be like,
Great,
You know,
great transition fighter. He's able to box offensively and defensively at the same time. It's not something that everyone's able to do.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So another big rumor out there is DAZN and Eddie Hearn are prepared to offer Canelo a 2-fight deal with Bivol and Gennady Golovkin. Bivol being May 7th and Gennady Golovkin supposedly being September 17th. That's being rumored. I don't know how true that is. Is this the best option for Canelo, and is this the most likely scenario that's going to happen? And is it going to play out this way? Let's start with you, Maestro.
Well, the first question is the answer is no. Like this isn't something I'm interested in. There's a little bit of background noise. I don't know who that is. If they could mute. But I'm not that interested in a Triple G fight. I'm just not. I haven't been for at least 2 years now. It's not interesting to me. It might have been, immediately following the second fight, but we've now seen an older version of Triple G who's like the same age as me, and trust me, I feel my age every morning. Who's been sitting on the shelf. People are talking about Thurman being rusty. I mean, this guy's hasn't fought at the elite level in how long? At least Thurman's last fight was against Pacquiao. Triple G's last win was against who? The last one I remember was it was either Steve Rolls or Zerameta.
Camille Serrano.
I mean, what's the difference at the end of the day? I mean, it's been a long time. He's been waiting around for Murata. That didn't happen. I don't get excited by the name Gennady Golovkin anymore as it relates to being in a major fight. I just don't. Bivol is an interesting proposition. That's a hardcore fans fight for sure. Bivol's not exactly the most exciting guy anymore. And when he was on HBO, I mean, he was knocking guys out. Since he's been on DAZN, he's been rather boring. He seems like a guy that's literally is sitting in the front seat of a Lambo, but is just cruising around Monte Carlo in first gear and doesn't ever want to take it onto the highway. Just above what I need to do to win this round, each round, every round for 12 rounds. I mean, it's just not exciting anymore. We would like to see it because we want to be able to see Canelo solve that puzzle. Does that translate over into Canelo territory of catching the interest of the casual fans? I don't really know if it does. But, at the end of the day, anything Canelo does is going to be criticized and hated on. So, it's really about picking your poison if you're Canelo. But I would rather see him at 175 against the likes of a Joe Smith Jr. just out of excitement, and a Baturvia for excitement and evenness and back and forth action and potential knockout. So those would be my picks.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I guess they were saying that this was allegedly, I don't know how true it is, an $85 million deal with the 2 fights. I don't know how accurate that is, but D, what do you think of this offer, this deal, this proposition? Is it the best deal for Canelo, and is it the most likely scenario that's going to happen?
I mean, if it's 80 million, yes. For Canelo, yes. But I mean, Jesus, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of guaranteed money. And then, if he and then the toughest fight, he gets out of the way first, and then he just has a standing piñata in a trilogy fight, because that's all Triple G's gonna be, right? That's it. I remember like when I was a kid, they'll take the piñata out and shit. And they'll be like, dale, no pierdas it. You know what I mean? And that's what Canelo would have a field day with this dude, okay? Gennady Golovkin is done, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a lot of Gennady Golovkin fans that are still saying that let's do the fight, let's get the fight done, come on, let's do it, let's go. Canelo's ducking, Canelo's scared. Look, you all know if Canelo goes out there and knocks the dude out, you ain't going to give him credit because you're going to say he was old, he was 40 years old. You already know you got that built-in excuse anyway, so why are you begging for the fight? Okay, and then Gennady Golovkin's been doing nothing to position himself to get this fight again. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But what I want to say is this: I like the Bivol fight. That's me. People keep saying that movers give Canelo problems. Well, he's a mover. So let's go ahead and see him fight a mover, all right? And let's see if he can give Canelo some problems. I think he's a better mover than anybody else he's fought at least at 168 for sure, and 160 actually, to be honest. So since the Lara fight probably, so that's an interesting fight to me, at least from a boxing perspective, okay? But once again, and I'll say this one more time. All right, look, this is the Bible of boxing, okay? This is the Ring magazine, okay? I want everybody to put your hand up, okay? This is the Bible, all right? And I want you to give me a pledge, right? I want everyone out there listening to give me a damn pledge, okay? That if you are one of the people that have been saying that Canelo needs to fight Bivol, that after Canelo beats Bivol, that you will join the rest of us in giving Canelo his credit, because nobody else is, okay? You have Charlo fans saying that they're not going to give him credit or he's ducking. By the way, how do you go from rumor has it he's going to fight Charlo? He's going to fight Charlo because he's coming off a tough win again, and he's cherry picking him, and now he's ducking him. Right now, these rumors came out. Okay, just do me a favor, regardless of who Canelo fights next. If he fights Charlo next, and you've been screaming up at the top of your lungs that he should fight Charlo, put your right hand up and say, D-Style, I swear that when he beats Charlo, and if he beats Charlo, I will join you. Okay, with all the people saying that he cherry-picked Charlo and that was not a good one, I will join you in giving Canelo credit. Okay. We're going to have to do this shit Diggstown style. Like, Canelo's going to have to beat everybody to finally get collective credit. He's the only fighter. Why? Because there is no peer of his that is at his level. He doesn't have like Mayweather had a Pacquiao. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have a Hearns like Leonard had. He doesn't have any of that. Why? Because these dudes aren't fighting each other and positioning themselves to be that dude. None of them are. That's all I got.
Mario, is this the best deal, and do you like it?
It's the best deal for Canelo for sure. And I like it. Not as much as I would have loved Charlo, but I put a tweet out there the other day, and it got a lot of shit for it. People have been DMing me, attacking me, but I said it as clearly as I thought I could. Okay, Triple G was for the money, Charlo was for the fans, and Bivol was for the sport. Because the sport is going to recognize the fact that Bivol is a 175 guy, and it puts him on that title picture, and specifically that shot for unification. Undisputed down the line. Because Maestro's talking about, Joe Smith and Betterby. They're talking about getting a fight done. They seem very close to getting that fight done. So imagine us being in a position where they fight. Bivol and Canelo fight, later, and then 2023 is a possible undisputed at 175. That would be awesome. The problem though with negotiating in the public domain is that when you ultimately pick your guy, everybody gets mad because they knew who else was out there that he could have fought, and they're mad that they didn't fight that guy. So the problem from the very beginning was putting the stories out there with, well, it could be Charlo and PBC, it could be Bivol, it could be Triple G. Like, doing that set the stage for failure ultimately. But I agree 100% with D-Style, 100%. These people that refuse to give Canelo his praise are the same people whose their favorite fighter averages one fight every 16 months, refuse to test themselves, beyond the ability of their own weight limit. Here's Canelo continuing to move up, continuing to go for greatness. Ultimately, whether he wins or loses, it doesn't matter, because he's going to continue to fight the best each and every time, the best available to him. Let Charlo go out there and do something. Let Andrade go out there and do something. Let Benavidez go out there and beat one of those guys. And then we can see what, where this happens. The one thing I do want to bring up is that in kind of correlation to this is Benavidez was out in the today and told reporters that he's willing to fight Boo Boo Andrade because it seems that the Caleb Plant Jermall Charlo fight is what's going to go forward. That would be awesome. I would give a lot of praise to Benavidez because he's not the guy that we blame for not fighting, Andrade. When we talk about the people that refuse to fight Andrade, Benavidez isn't the name that comes up. But for him to go out there and take that token, that is what boxing is all about. That's what made me a fucking fan in the 90s. And, those are the kinds of people that would deserve Canelo.
Very well said, Mario. Very well said. Boxing Dev, what do you think of this deal for Canelo? You think it's the best deal out there?
You're muted, Dev.
Sorry. I am going to rephrase this phrase. The best option for Canelo is Triple G because it's going to beat him easily. And the worst option for Canelo, but the best option for fans, are Benavides, Beterbiev, Bivol, and Charlo. Not Ilunga Makawa, not Callum Plant again, not the trilogy with Triple G, any one of them. That four men should fight against Canelo. But anybody knows what is going to happen because I don't think Canelo is going to fight against Benavides because Benavides can beat him. I think Bivol too. I think he's going to take Beterbiev or Charlo. Beterbiev because of his hold, and Charlo because it's an easy win for Canelo.
Yeah. Well, Ring, I know you've been talking about this, and you've been saying that you thought Charlo was the easiest fight. I believe you said that. And to me, I think Bivol is a tougher fight. What do you think of this deal? And do you like this Bivol fight better than the Charlo fight? Mute him.
You are mute.
Yeah, as a I'm sorry, as a hardcore boxing fan, yeah, I love the Bivol fight. I think that's the more complex fight out of every fight that's out there right now. That's the one I honestly feel he could lose. I could definitely see him knock. I know a lot of people think Benavides is this and that, but I can literally see him getting knocked out, and I see how it would happen to him. With Artur, I can see him losing, and I can see how he loses. Bivol is a tougher nut to crack because he doesn't give you a lot. He sticks and moves, shoots the jab. He's very accurate. He's very durable. He knows how to measure distance. It's a very frustrating style for Canelo. So out of intrigue, I really like that fight. But is that the best deal? No. The best deal is I'm going to beat the shit out of Charlo for $45 million, and I'm going to beat the shit out of Gennady Golovkin for whatever the fuck that makes me. That's the best deal. Bivol is a potential banana skin. As far as me as a consumer, I'm okay with whatever he does because all these guys suck. You know what I mean? Like, well, not all of them, but I'm sick of the bullshit. Benavides hasn't fought shit. He fought Anthony Durrell. Andre, I love him, but, he hasn't fought shit. Charlo, I hate him. He hasn't fought shit. Bivol, you're all right, but you're boring sometimes. Like, you're just fucking boring. Right now, Artur, I love him, but he's busy. He's going to fight Joe. And I'm okay with that. I love the Joe Smith Jr. versus Artur Beterbiev fight. At this point, Canelo can retire, and I'd be okay with it. Like, dog, you went undisputed in 12 months. Errol Spence hasn't gone undisputed in 5 years. All right? You can go, bro. You did it. You did it for Mexico. You did it for the fans. He could retire, bro. Whatever he does now, it's like, man, go do your thing, Canelo. I'm just happy you're still here.
Is this a paradox I'm witnessing here with the boxing community? Let me tell people this, okay? You know that old saying, one man's gold and another man's, one man's trash and another man's treasure? Like, you can ask, and I'm not even joking about this, you can ask 100 people, right, who they think Canelo should fight, and you'll get like 60 to 80 different answers, all right? And you'll have, like, people on the opposite end of the spectrum. So just to point something out, like Boxing Dev said that he'll fight Beterbiev because Beterbiev he's up there in age, right? But then there's also a lot of people that are saying that Canelo would never fight Artur Beterbiev. That he's a nightmare. There's no way he would fight him. Like, watch, he's gonna fight Bivol, right? And they say that he's gonna fight this trash fighter over here. But then you have other individuals like myself who actually believe Bivol's a tougher fight than Beterbiev. Right? Okay. In my opinion, it's a different type of challenge. They're both tough fights. Don't get me wrong. Right. But I think Bivol has more of a chance to win, get a W than Beterbiev. It's my opinion. Right. But people differ with that. To some out here, they claim that Canelo's been running, that he ran up to fight all these guys at 168 to run from Charlo because he was scared to fight Charlo, right? And they believe that to the core, and they think him fighting Like if he fights like a better beef or something like that, that's a duck. He's fighting a guy tailor-made for him to avoid Charlo, right? And then you have other individuals that think Charlo's no big deal. Like, that would be a cherry pick for Canelo. Like, you know, like the opposite ends that I see so many fan bases on. I still see some people saying Triple G's the best fight. I disagree with that, but that's how they feel, right? I still see people saying that, you know, he has other options that he should explore, like Benavidez, for example. Some think that's the best fight for him to take. Some think that's a trash fight for him to take. Many would criticize him just as much as others would praise him. There is no clear-cut guy that he has that is a consensus. I will repeat, there is no consensus opponent that the majority of boxing fans want to see Canelo fight. The entire boxing community is divided on who is his best option and who is the worst option. Sometimes it's the opposite. So I just wanted to point that out.
Got you. Shout out to Remy. He says, good evening. Thank you so much for the super chat.
Remy.
Yeah, I'm going to just chime in real quick. And I think that the Charlo fight, I don't think that was ever going to happen. I just don't think PBC at this particular time has the money for that fight. They don't have the money for Canelo right now because they got this the Spence-Ugas pay-per-view, and they got a pretty good schedule coming up, and they got some good potential fights, and they got some money fights that they're going to have to put together. I don't know if they can afford to put Charlo versus Canelo right now based on what both guys are going to need for purses. I don't think they have the money. So that's why I don't think that fight's going to happen this year. Sorry?
Well, I would just imagine real quick. I would just imagine like Canelo on the phone with Al Heyman, you know, like, show me the money. Like, tell me, show me the money.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, but anyway.
I just don't think they have the money for that fight right now.
I love Mexican people. Like,
I agree, Beeb, with what you said, and also to add to it just a little bit, if they do the Charlo Plant fight, right, and they set it up towards a winner fighting Benavidez, it's not a Canelo fight, but that's business. That's real business.
Well, they can build it
in-house,
yeah,
which is what they always want to do anyway.
They can build it. They can build it where they could get some money out of it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Well,
you're right. I just realized something today because for about 2 years, I've been talking about Triple G abandoning the hashtag all the belts moniker. You guys remember it was all about all the belts.
Yep. Yeah.
Until he decided to drop the belt because he didn't want to take on Deverenchenko and defend the IBF title and ended up taking, you know, an overmatched Vanes out after also trying to get in the ring with a guy who by that time was probably a junior or maybe senior in high school in I'm exaggerating, of course, but Jaime Munguia, when they didn't allow him to get that fight. But hashtag all the belts apparently just means wait around long enough for Canelo to collect all the belts at 168 and then fight for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy's been doing nothing for 2 years. How is he even in the running? I mean, how is he even in the conversation? It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Can I say this, Maestro? Let me just say this, right? The visage, the image of Gennady Golovkin laid out on the floor, I want to see it. I'm not even going to lie to you. Yeah, I want to see him get knocked out. Right now, they're 1-1. To me, they're 1-1. Gennady won the first one. Canelo won the second one. That's how I feel in here. If you can give me Canelo Alvarez sleeping that man, yeah, that's iconic. I need to see that. I need to see that because
that's a good point. That's not a bad point.
168, because I don't want to hear any funny business about catch weights and we need to do this at 163 or 164. If this fight happens, it better happen at 168.
Oh, it will. Probably it'll happen at 168.
It'll happen at 68.
It's got to.
And moreover, and we'd be hypocrites if they told us that, hey, guess what? Gennady Golovkin's going to fight Charlo. We'd watch that fight. If they say Gennady Golovkin's going to fight Andre, we'd watch that fight. If they say Gennady Golovkin's going to fight Benavidez, yeah, we'd watch that fight. And we'd watch it.
The Murata fight.
You know
exactly. The Murata fight is going to be great, and people don't realize that, but that's going to be a fun fight.
Styles mesh well. The styles mesh very well together.
Murata might win that fight.
Fuck around, and I'm going to laugh so fucking hard, all right? I'm going to laugh hard. But what I'm saying is, yes, Golovkin is a waste of goddamn time, and he's fucking old. But if you told me that he's going to fight Canelo, I'm watching because I want to see him get knocked out.
Yeah, that's what I was about to. That's what I was about to say. I was about to say, like, like we're looking at this fight and we're not really crazy about it. But if it did get signed, we'd all watch it. You know,
Khan versus Brook, babe. Tell me you not hype. Khan versus Brook.
I'm
That's the biggest
buying
fight
it.
of the year.
I mean,
I'm buying it.
I'm ready, bro. I'm ready.
I'm
What's
ready.
on ESPN Plus?
You're talking to somebody who purchased the Ortiz Martin pay-per-view and who was watching Eubank Jr. against Liam Williams last week. So I don't know if I'm the audience to be talking to about this one.
I
But
bought
yes,
Roy
I know
Jones.
what you're
I
saying.
bought Roy Jones versus Bobby Gunn back in the day. If I'm going to buy that, I'm going to buy anything. I'm just letting you know.
Bro,
Were you
I'm
one of
ready,
were you
bro.
were you
You're
one of the
talking
48,000 people that bought B-Hop Roy Jones?
I
Two?
did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, there
I
you
did.
go.
I was also down for Pinoy Power and Latin Fury cards. Not to mention
Oh, those were good.
Not to mention Cedric Kushner's heavyweight explosions. Don't forget about those. Takes you way back. Eh?
Those
That's
were on paper. Oh, yeah.
with those ones back in the day. Thanks to my mama.
All right. So we all know about Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. It's all set for April. But Amanda Serrano at the press conference challenged Katie Taylor. Hey, let's do it for 3 minute 12 rounds. And was this cap? Was this all hype? Was this just for promotion? Or does she really want this? Because again, the contracts have already been signed. And we all know that the WBC will not allow them to fight 3 minute rounds. We all know the WBC will not allow them to fight 12 rounds. And back in 2017, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Katie Taylor, when it was on record, asking for a 12 round 3 minute fight, and she was denied because of the WBC. So is this a kind of like just a hype job for Amanda Serrano, or is this all, or does she really want this? And did she really believe that it could happen? Start with you, Boston Dev.
Okay, I think Amanda knows that the longer the fight lasts, she's going to win. She's going to beat Katie. That's the reason that Katie doesn't want to fight 3 minutes, 3 to 12 rounds, because she's sold. That is hurting me, but Katie is old. She's 35 years old. We didn't saw the same Katie as always in her last fights. So I think Amanda is pushing this because she knows she can beat her in a fight of 3 to 12. That's the reason. It's not for marketing. She knows she can beat her, but she needs a long fight.
Okay, all right. D-Star, what do you think, man? Is this all just for hype? I mean, the contract's already signed. You can't go changing them now.
Yeah, it's just this is new era cap on layaway is what this is. Okay, let me tell you something, okay? Let me tell you something. If Amanda was about that 12 times 3 life, she would already had a fight that was 3 minutes rounds. She's never in her career had a 3 minute round fight ever. And everybody talks about all her accomplishments. She's been pro longer than Katie. She's been around the pro game a lot longer than Katie Taylor, right? I keep hearing, because Amanda wants to make the moves, bring the sport to another level. Look, let's just be honest for a moment. The A-side's Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor's the one that put the Olympics on the map. She's a 2-time gold medalist. Okay, like she made it popular in Ireland and the UK for women's boxing. Inspired a lot of little girls over there to take up boxing. She's the one that became a 7-figure fighter, not because some YouTuber hooked her up, but because she generated that. Okay, and now you're gonna now Amanda's part of this. It's a big event, and she's part of it. But make no mistake about it, Katie Taylor's the one that made all this happen. And in my opinion, it's disrespectful for boxing fans, especially ones that haven't really been watching women's boxing. Now, look, I'll confess, I haven't been watching it that long, but I've been following it a little bit for the last year and a half or so. But people just come out and they're like, yeah, why don't they do 3 minutes, 12? Like, it put her in a spot in a way where now she's expected to answer why she won't do 12 rounds, 3 minutes, when Clarissa Shields never had to do that. Layla Ali never had to do that. Kristen Martin never had to do that. Lucia Riker never had to do that. You know who else never had to do that to prove her greatness, right? Amanda Serrano never had to do that, right? All right. But now you got the Garden. Now you got this big event. You got this platform. And look, I'm not buying, and I'm not even saying there's something wrong with this, but I'm not buying the innocent girl act from Amanda Serrano. I'm not, okay? posting pictures like, oh, I want to thank my opponent. She was a Mexican warrior. But like, it's a picture you punching her in the face. That doesn't make her look that flattering. And she keeps doing that to opponents. Now, I think it's savage. I think it's a hell of a move. But I'm just saying, I don't buy the good girl, innocent thing. I don't buy the, oh, it was just a suggestion. You know, I mean, she doesn't have to do it if she doesn't want to. I respect Katie Taylor. I mean, if she doesn't want to, it's okay. Like, because you're trying to put yourself like above her, okay? Look, if you want to show you're better than Katie Taylor, you got your opportunity, all right? Serena Williams never got challenged to do more sets in a tennis game to prove her greatness by some other player, okay? Like, the rules are the rules. These are the rules you agree to, and you wait to the second press conference to bring this up. Not even the first press conference. This is all cap. She ain't about the 12-by-3 life. If she was, she would have already done it.
Ring, the contracts are already signed. Does this even make sense to bring it up now?
No, and I'm glad that Ebony Bridges was asked about that, because Ebony Bridges gave the same. She said it the way that I thought it, that anybody that buys into this is like, you'd have to be slow to actually believe that this is what she wants. This is all cap. If you wanted this, you would have negotiated it beforehand. You've already done the fight. For us to go through with what you're suggesting, we'd have to go to the New York State Athletic Commission, go to the WBA, the WBC, the WBO, and the IBF, petition all of them to sanction the fight for 12, not even 3-minute rounds, not just 12 3-minute rounds. You know that's not likely to happen. So what you're doing is trying to make me look bad, and I've maintained my original position throughout. Amanda never wanted this fight. She wants the money. That's all it's about. It's the money. At the end of the day, she knows I just struggled to knock out Yemi Mercado at 126 pounds because she moved around a little bit. I just fought Miriam Gutierrez at 135 pounds. I couldn't knock her out even though I was landing. With Katie, who's a harder target than them, I need an edge because I don't have one. She's harder to hit than they are. So let's try for 12 3-minute rounds. I know it's not going to work, but at minimum, I make her look bad. Amanda's nervous. That's all it is. It's the walls closing in on her, because she's had advantages in every single fight she's ever had. And the D-Styles point, which is 100% facts, if you wanted to fight for 3-minute rounds, you would have done so already. Like Marlene Esparza, most people don't know she fought for 3-minute rounds as a professional. She did once. If that's what you really wanted, you would have been doing that. But maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, they asked you about 3-minute rounds. And you said, I don't need them. I'm a knockout artist. So that a few weeks later, you could change your mind. It looks like what it looks like, bro. It's fucking cap. It's fucking cap. Nobody believe you, bro. Nobody believe you.
Maestro, is this cap or not?
It's all the way cap. I mean, this is Brian Seltzer on CNN. This is Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. This is fucking Sean Hannity on Fox News. This is Fauci lying his ass off about gain of function research and mask wearing and the effectiveness of this leaky vaccine that still lets you get sick and catch COVID. But that, by the way, they want to inject in the 5-year-olds. This is all-time levels cap. It's so absurd. Oh, we just signed a contract. Oh, we're just doing press conferences. Oh, this is sanctioned for 4 titles. But by the way, we're going to change the competitive nature of this engagement altogether. And by the way, if you don't agree to it, well, I kind of think I'm going to look good, and my fans are going to think that I'm looking good, and your fans are going to look at you like you're not ready for me, and you're a coward, or you can't engage in what you already signed on to do. It's absurd. But unfortunately, I brought up the corporate mainstream, pro-capitalist, pro-product selling media as an example of, unfortunately, what's gone on with boxing, especially on YouTube. You've got channels that are essentially free PR work. I mean,
Yes.
apparently people can just wake up in the morning and have nothing better to do than act like free PR people for their favorite fighters. You know, let me get up, let me take a shit, then let me go get some coffee, then let me go to the bathroom, then let me get in front of my computer and lie. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is an absurd assertion, an absurd request. I don't know what really the intention was, because it's never going to happen. And yeah, it's serious cap, Joe, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
All right, Mario, do you believe this? Do you think that Serrano really wants 3 12-minute rounds for this fight?
No, not at all. Look, here's the deal, right? Ring IQ said it the best. Okay, they wouldn't even be able to sanction this. They would have had to have gone, with to the all the organizations and sanctioning bodies and the athletic commissions to get them to alter the entire sport. You can't just do it for one fight. Think about it like this. Think about that they signed Terrence Crawford Spence, right? And Spence is at the at the whatever, it doesn't matter, like I guess that the weigh-in or whatever. And he's saying, well, we should do 15 rounds. I'm an old school fighter. Let's do 15 rounds, motherfucker. Like, let's fight for all the belts with 15. It's like, you can't do that. You can't just
dip our gloves in fucking resin and glass.
Kickboxer style. Yo, good reference.
Fuck
I
it.
love that.
Let's go bare knuckle and do it with the BKFC. Why don't we
Exactly.
just
That's
do that shit?
100%
Let's go down
what
Washington
this is.
Square Park and fight with bats.
Exactly. Now, I do want to say this, though. I do want to make this point. If Amanda's intentions were to somehow try to like soften the blow for casual fans that, hopefully are going to tune into this, because this is one of the biggest fights that women's boxing could ever put on. And if she's doing it to, I guess, bring up the narrative and start the change, that's cool, I guess. I don't think that's what it was for. I think the panel's absolutely right. I think she was just trying to make her look bad. But, ultimately, I remember when Miesha Tate and Rousey fought, right? Going back to MMA in Strikeforce. And that fight at the time seemed like a good fight. It was a cool fight. You can draw a line from that fight to where women's MMA and the UFC became, a big marketable thing, a machine, with Rousey and Amanda Nunes and them getting sponsors. Like, you can draw a line, you know what I'm saying? From that point to where we are now, that fight was historic for putting women's MMA on the map. That's what this fight could be. So to promote it in any way you can, to push out whatever narratives, and there's plenty of good narratives here. She beat Cindy Serrano, her sister. There's a lot of good things about this fight. So ultimately, they can stop with the nonsense and let the fight promote itself.
Gotcha. Did you want to add anything, Boxing Dev? You seem like you want to say something.
Yeah, I want to say a lot of things, but my English tonight is not good.
All right.
I think I don't know. Anybody here think that Amanda can beat Katie?
No.
Can she? Yes.
Can she? Yes. But I'm picking Katie.
I think you have to respect her. Yeah, but I would pick Katie in this fight.
I think Katie Taylor's a clear favorite.
But I think Amanda Serrano definitely deserves her respect going into this fight.
If you think Amanda could win, you stand your square and you let people know you think Amanda could win.
Yeah.
I don't think she can win. Her corner lost his mind just because Jamie Mercado moved a little bit in a fight that they were winning. He lost his mind just because she wouldn't stand at one spot and trade. They know that Jamie doesn't do that. That's why they picked her. They saw the Rascon fight. Yeah. They saw the Guzman fight. They know that girl. She's a pinata. I love her, but she's a pinata. She moved just a little bit, and he flew off the handle. He got to call her out her name. And
I'm picking Katie. I'm picking Katie.
I'm picking Katie on points. And that's why Amanda's coming apart at the seams.
Yeah.
I feel like a part of her actually wanted to try to do that, and she wanted to spring it on Katie, make her look bad, but at the same time, see if she's willing to do it. But it's too late. You signed the contract already. You can't change
You can see that we have two fights here. You have two fights. The first one is the mental fight. Katie is not the same Katie as the Katie of 2019. Okay, she's not the same. Her level is down, and everybody knows that. And I think Amanda has never wanted this fight because she's been avoiding Katie since 2018 maybe. So, but we have two fights here. We have the age fight because Katie is old and Amanda is younger than Katie, but Katie is bigger than Amanda. So Amanda hasn't decided to fight in lightweight. Because when she fought in lightweight, okay, she came here to Argentina, she fought against Maria Maderna, she beat her. Hey, but Katie is not one of that fighters. So we have two fights here. First, the mental fight, and the age fight. So who wins the first fight, the mental one, is going to beat the other one.
I want to say
You
this
know
to
that.
Lucia.
And wait,
Amanda
if this,
perdió la batalla mental porque ella quiere cambiar la circunstancia. 4 weeks, 5
Wait,
weeks
Tú dile que
ago.
no es cierto, de tú dile que no es
Míralo,
cierto si quieres.
pero míralo de esta forma, mírenlo de esta forma.
So,
¿Cuánto
Rick,
pelean las mujeres? 20 minutos. Un
Ajá.
hombre tenés 45. You know, en esta pelea que la estamos esperando hace mucho tiempo, lo más grande en el main event, en el Madison Square Garden, ¿te gustaría que dure más? Sí.
Esas son, y yo te estoy diciendo, Lucía, que esas son pendejadas, porque esa misma niña hace como 5 semanas ella dijo, yo no necesito 3 minutos, yo soy knockout puncher, yo no necesito 3 minutos. Ahora tú quieres 3 minutos y 12 asaltos.
so just
Ella está nerviosa.
to
She's
summarize,
nervous.
I got to summarize this for the people that don't speak Spanish. So Ring IQ
Sorry.
was essentially saying that, again, this is all cap. And Boxing Dev was essentially saying that this is a huge fight, and who wouldn't want to see this for longer at Madison Square Garden, because it's only 20 minutes versus a men's fight, which is much longer. But unfortunately, Boxing Dev, and unfortunate for Serrano, they've signed on to this fight. And we have been watching women's boxing for a while now, and championship fights are 10-2. That's just
Boxing-
what they are.
Boxing
And to
Dev.
make this right now at the last minute, after a thing has already been signed, it's like a day late and like $1 million too short. It
Boxing Dev.
Yeah.
This would be like me selling you a house, right? And we already closed on the deal. And then I come to you a day later and say, I'm going to add $25,000 to the price of the house. What would you do? We already signed it, right? We can't change it now, right?
Yeah.
But I will say this though, don't let this panel make you think that most people are going for Katie. It's pretty 50-50 for what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
For the way people are.
I
picking
think
this fight.
Katie is going to walk through her, walk her down, and get inside. And I think Serrano's going to have a hard time keeping Katie off. I think Katie's
Oh,
just
it's
too
gonna
strong for
move,
her.
brother.
I think she's too strong for her.
Okay, yeah. I'm saying the 3-12 because I'm a biggest fan of boxing, and
No.
for example, when Katie fought against Delphine Persoon, if that fight was 3-12, was going to be amazing because it was a war. So okay, what is trying to do Serrano right now? I don't know. Maybe she's playing. She doesn't want to fight. But
Ella
I
es mala, Lucía. Tú no sabes que esa tipa estaba vendiendo droga en los gimnasios en el Bronx. Esa tipa estaba vendiendo droga. Ella y el cuñado vendiendo droga. Esa gente son
Wow.
malas.
So
Son malas esa gente.
So people are selling drugs apparently. I don't.
drugs in
Oh.
the Bronx.
They were selling Operation Dumbbell was a sting operation by the New York Police
about
Department where they were selling performance enhancing drugs. Her, Jordan Maldonado, and her sister Cindy, they're anglers. They've always been anglers. That's why they never fought Daniela Bermudez at 118, even though she had a belt. They want to bring her up to 126. Why didn't you fight at 118 after she beat Bobby Juarez? Why you don't fight these people at the weights that they be at? You a 7-division champion. They anglers, man. They anglers.
I thought the behavior during the last fight to speak to a woman like that, to speak to a competitive athlete like that, you know, was outrageous.
Yeah,
You know, I thought it was. I just thought it was outrageous. Bunch of clowns.
which, by the way, goes back to my like. I know like later, Amanda came out and was like giving her praise, calling her a Mexican warrior. But again, oh, she was such a great warrior. But you're showing pictures of punching her in the face, and it's not making her look that flattering in the process.
She's passive aggressive.
It's passive aggressive for
Yeah.
sure. And then when she was being interviewed, passive aggressive. Okay,
That's
like
passive-aggressive. Oh, yeah.
oh, you know, my trainer would just meant that, you know, that she's a Mexican warrior, and we thought she was gonna come fight.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
come on.
Yeah. All right, let's move along here.
Pero no te dejes, Boxing Dev.
Yeah.
Ella es
Let's move
mala.
on here.
Esa mujer es mala.
So
No,
Eddie
come
Hearn,
on.
Eddie Hearn was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, and he was talking about the step aside. And he said when he presented the step aside offer to AJ, AJ said, "There's no way I want to take the step aside." And then Eddie came back and said, "Well, you know, but you haven't started training yet. You don't have a trainer." And Eddie said that Joshua said to him, I could beat Usyk without a trainer. So I don't know if Joshua actually said this. This is what Eddie said he said. I don't know how true this is because a lot of times Eddie will say, people say things and they come out and say, I didn't say that. But if this is true, where's Joshua's head at right now? It doesn't seem to have a trainer right now. This fight has no date. They haven't really talked about when this fight is going to be. Now they're pushing it back, I think, to May. It was supposed to be in April. Doesn't look like, anything is solidified for this fight, and doesn't look like Joshua has anything squared away yet for his trainer. Where's Joshua's head at? Is Joshua mentally prepared for this rematch? Let me start with you, Mario.
Yeah, look, that was a debacle. That was the whole situation, because reportedly Joshua wanted 5 million more euros, to take it. And then, Eddie also said that Joshua refused the step-aside money because he didn't want to feel the shame of not fighting Usyk next or being the one that, and a lot of people jumped on him for that, right? Here's the deal. Can Joshua beat an Usyk level fighter without a trainer? No, not at all. It can't. And look, it's not that I'm saying he's not good enough to beat Usyk, period. But the more hindrances you give yourself in a prize fight of this magnitude, the less your chances are come fight night. You can go down the list of things that are important: sparring, trainers, all those things put you in a position to prepare you to win on fight night. So if you want to talk about cap, that's cap. To say that you think you could beat Usyk or Fury or Wilder or any Dillian White, any of these guys, no, you cannot do it. Let's look at what trainers have done just recently for heavyweights. Fury, look at the situation he was in. Changes trainers, puts himself in a better position. Now he's the king of the heavyweight division, and I'm not saying it was just as simple as that, but the fact of the matter is that Joshua was willing to step aside. They didn't give him the price he wanted. I think Eddie was willing, also thought that it was a good idea. They could solidify things. Now we find ourselves in a situation where it's Fury and White, and Joshua's going to have to fight Usyk. I think he needs to settle down with a trainer right away because, it's his best chance is getting prepared immediately. You're on mute.
Where's Joshua's head at right now, Ring? What's going on here with this whole situation with Usyk?
Joshua's a fighter. He wants revenge. That's where his head is at. My take on what happened is Eddie wants Joshua to step aside. Joshua doesn't want to step aside. Eddie wants him to step aside because, look, Lennox Lewis didn't fight Oliver McCall straight away. It was 3 years and about 6-7 fights or something like that between the first Lennox Lewis Oliver McCall fight and the second one. If he were to step aside to allow Undisputed, I wouldn't be mad about it because that's what I wanted Wilder to do. I wanted him to step aside, stand down, let them fight. So I wouldn't think it's the end of the world. But as far as where Joshua's head is at, he wants to fight because he's a fighter. He wants revenge. He want to get that back. But he's not in the maybe he's in the right headspace because I actually think that's good that you want to fight. That's good because you overshot it. You thunked too much. You tried to box the boxer. You're not going to win that way. You're a fucking heavyweight. Fight like it. You know what I mean? He's sitting there jabbing and fainting. Like, man, what the fuck, bro? Lay into the guy. You know what I mean? But he doesn't have a trainer. And that's that's what isn't encouraging. That you don't have that situated yet after all these weeks. We're about 2 months into the year of 2022. You still haven't situated that. You know what I mean? That's worrying. That's worrying. If it turns out that they don't take the fight, it's gonna look bad. But it is something that he can survive. It is something that he can survive because not every rematch was an immediate rematch. When Roy Jones Jr. beat Bernard Hopkins, the rematch wasn't until 14 years later. You know what I mean? 14 years, bro. So people gonna say they shit. Whether you fight them again or they gonna say they shit. At the end of the day, I'm here for all of it, bro. I'm here for all of it.
Got you. Maestro, what's going on with Joshua? Is he ready for this rematch, man?
Well, I'm here listening, and right before Ring made that point, I was actually thinking, don't these clauses, these rematch clauses, come with some kind of an expiry date? Because I mean, how long are we going to be waiting? How long is Usyk expected to wait to comply with this provision of this contract? I mean, it's delusion if that's what he thinks. I mean, my mind took me to like Rocky IV, where all he has the birthday party and the robots like blowing out the birthday candles. What the hell is going on with the heavyweight champ? It's like he's got robots all over the place, and you know, this is what I think of when I thought of that statement. It's like, you got to come back down to earth, dog. If you think that you're gonna fight any heavyweight of any skill level at that kind of top level and not have a trainer going into the fight, especially when you think of a guy like AJ who gets hit with a hard punch and then in the corner's like, what shot was that? What do I need to do? Where did that punch come from? It's like he's a guy who's constantly turning to literally like micromanagement level advice between rounds. So I don't quite understand that. If he does go into a Usyk fight without a trainer, it's going to be a worse beating than he took the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so beat up after the 12 rounds, he could barely make it to the center of the ring to do the fight announcement of who won the fight. I don't know if you remember this, but they looked like they almost had to carry him out over there. Huffing and puffing from round 3 onwards. I mean, getting hit with clean shots to the head, to the body, having his jab slipped and blocked constantly. Usyk stepping to the side. I mean, he literally didn't know what to do in there against him. It was like, you know, when in the cartoons, right? Where you got like the bigger guy, like just literally keeping the younger, smaller guy, and then the little guy just going like this. I mean, obviously in this case, he was the bigger guy, but his boxing was about as effective as the smaller guy in those cartoons. Like, he's not hitting much, he's getting hit. Usyk proved that he can take his power when he needs to. So look, he's got to get with a trainer. He's got to do something quick, especially if this fight is supposed to take place in April or May. And speaking of April, what a month of boxing. Like, we're gonna have to talk about that another time soon, but April is stacked, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Boxing Dev, is AJ ready for Usyk?
I don't think so. He should have changed his corner since he lost against Andy Ruiz, and he didn't. So I think he's not mentally prepared to fight at the toppest level in heavyweight, because you can see he's not a bully. He needs to be a bully, and he's not a bully. So that's the reason. And I think, for example, everybody here saw Anthony Joshua ring walks. What we can see when he do that, he's smiling. He is like a TV star with all of the show. And you, if you are going to get into the ring, you need to be focused on to do your job. You know, you can't be smiling, taking photos, thinking that you are a superstar. You know, you should change that mentality. For example, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Ortiz, Usyk, Andy Ruiz, everybody is walking down the ring like they're mentally prepared and focused on the fight. And Joshua is like a TV star, and that should change because he's going to beat again, and he has beaten by someone who is not a heavyweight, who is a cruiser. Usyk is a really good fighter. He's super. He has all of the skills. He outboxes the biggest man in the ring that night, and that's okay. That was possible, but that's not good because Joshua is going to beat. Is not going to beat anybody if he's beat if Usyk beat him again. You know, I think he should train his mentality. He should go to a therapist. He should talk about it because he's going to the ring like he's not entering on a birthday. He's going to fight, and he's smiling like, oh my god, he like a a I don't know, a little boy with a candy. I don't think that is good.
Gotcha.
I agree.
He's
I
got to
agree.
be tougher. He's got to be tougher.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, D. What's gonna happen, man? Is he ready?
Yeah, I mean, Shubinov thought he could beat Hopkins without a trainer. How'd that work out? You know what I mean? I just want to throw it out there. But like, look what's happening here. Look at this. AJ has successfully trolled everybody in the panel. Like, you guys really believe he's going to go out there without a trainer? Like, you really believe that? In fact, do you really believe he said it and meant it? I don't. You know what I mean? Like, we could call Joshua a lot of things, okay? But he's not stupid, all right? So like you could say he's not gonna be that, whatever, right? But it's funny, Maestro mentioned the guy asking for advice. That's the first thing I thought about. Like how did he hit me? Like where did it come from? Like well, dude, you need a trainer in your corner. But I'm not taking the statement serious. At least look, if he goes out there without a trainer, that'll be the most bizarre shit I've ever seen in my life. And I'll take back my statements, but I don't think he's being serious, to be honest with you. And I think this is an example of the phone game, I think. You know what I mean? This is like a second source saying that he said this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he means he doesn't need a new trainer, that he's happy with Rod McCracken, which I think would be a terrible decision.
Eddie Hearn protects him a lot.
Well, look, I'd rather have McCracken than nobody, right? You know?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if we're being real, yeah, I'd rather have McCracken than nobody. Nobody.
And not only that, I have a feeling, man, AJ might not go through with this fight. I just have this feeling, because I don't think he should, in my opinion.
Then why not take the step aside? If you're not going to go through it, take the 15 mil, right?
I don't know what his
No,
ultimate
you're saying
plan
he
is,
shouldn't, right? You're not saying that he's not.
No, I don't
You're
think he
saying you
shouldn't,
don't
but
think
I
it's
think
the right choice.
I think he's going to end up doing it. But
yeah.
I don't.
No, that's what I thought you meant.
But,
Yeah.
but either way, that's all I got on it.
Real quick, Beeb, I just want to let you, I did this
Go
while between Maestro talking, because he's saying, how long we going to have to wait for this fight. So White Povetkin 2 took 7 months before they got back in the ring. Wilder Fury 2, which I know is plagued with a lot of other issues, but that was 18 months. Joshua Ruiz took 6 months for the rematch. Helenius Kawanaki, which we just saw recently, took 18 months, and obviously that was a COVID issue too. And then Wilder Ortiz took 16 months. So again, these aren't the same situations, but when it comes to the heavyweight division, because there's so much money on the line, because it gets so much notoriety, these things seem to take so much longer. It feels like the heavyweight division is like in quicksand with how they move and how
slower
they
than the other
orchestrate.
divisions.
Yes,
Yeah.
it just feels like there's more.
I'm still
red
waiting
tape.
for
The
that
DMV
Fury
of-
Klitschko rematch. I'm still waiting for that one. Right?
You're also waiting for De La Hoya Trinidad too. Oh shit! I better not say
I
that.
have to do
They
one. I
actually
have
do
to
it.
throw a shot. I have to throw one shot. I have to throw one shot after just one. You know what I mean? That's all.
It was a good shot.
Yeah, Fury gets no love. He gets no love on this over here.
Let's just start asking for the Morales-Pacquiao rematch.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Well-
look, I think that it'll happen. It'll happen. If he loses, that sucks because the same money's not going to be in a division. And one thing I always give Joshua is he fights the fucking fights. Whether he wins or loses the fights, he fights the fucking fights, which is what keeps the division alive. Fighters that are willing to fight. But I do think he is a little fragile mentally. I think he wants to fight, but everything is not sorted out. I think Eddie, because everything is not sorted out, he wants him to step aside.
Yeah, he doesn't.
AJ,
I don't think Eddie thinks he's ready.
It's be tough, Ring. When your yes men, your cheerleaders, your hype men are like telling you to take the money and like not do the rematch.
Oh,
well, Eddie,
no.
I don't
That's
even
not a
think.
good look, right?
I don't even think Eddie wanted him to fight him in the first place.
That
He-
can't
No,
be easy. You know what I mean?
agree.
These
I
guys
agree.
Eddie is always protecting him.
Yeah.
But look, I don't. But here's the thing. I agree with everything you said, Ring. I do. But the only thing I disagree is I don't think AJ's fragile minded. When I look at a fighter fragile minded, I think of Wilder. He couldn't accept the loss and he couldn't bounce back in the way that was helpful.
different
him.
types of fragility, though.
Mario,
Sure.
I'm on board with Mario. I should have rephrased that. I feel like AJ is easy to get to, but I don't think he's weak-minded because a weak-minded person, they
That I
wouldn't
fully agree with.
a weak-minded person wouldn't have fought Andy Ruiz the second time after getting beat like that. But he
Great
did
point.
it, and he did it straight away, and he stuck to that game plan, which is why I don't like the poo-poo all over Rob McCracken. Rob came up with that strategy. Stick and move, box and punch. Don't stand in front of him. Don't trade with him in the pocket. You got greedy the last time. Don't do it again. And it worked. All right. Now, Usyk is a special fighter, whether people want to admit it or not. He's a special fighter, whether people want to admit it or not. It's a tough nut to crack.
Ring, is that really like, a groundbreaking strategy though? When your fighter's 6'6" and he's fighting a guy.
No, but look, normally punchers get hit like that, they don't come back. Normally, they don't come back. AJ is a puncher, and the way he got beat by Ruiz, it's a wonder he's still here now, because that would have been enough to break Wilder. Look at what it took to break Wilder.
He was beat from pillar to post, there's no doubt about it.
4 knockdowns in the fight. 4 knockdowns.
It's different. It's different, the situation with AJ and with Wilder. Wilder fell from his expectations because he was the bully. He was the completely bully, and he was in front of someone who said, hey, I'm not scared about you. But AJ is different because he has no jaw for the first time. Since he has been protecting by Eddie Hearn from all his career. The first time he went to America, he lost. So, and then they took AJ to UK again, and they have him protecting him again, and that's not good. So mentally, we can say that MJ is better than Wilder, because Wilder is broken, completely broken, and I think he's not going to went back boxing. I think, but AJ is going to be hurted in the toppest level because he doesn't want to do a step aside from Usyk, but he's not prepared to fight against Usyk again. He's not prepared to fight against Wilder, for example, or Tyson Fury. Maybe King Kong Ortiz could bother him too. So the difference between AJ and Wilder is that AJ is not a bully, and he needs to be a bully.
Lucia, Usyk is a Capricorn. You can't win the mental. He's a Capricorn.
Papachenko. Usyk has a Papachenko on his corner. That's the truth. And you haven't, all of the credit from Usyk or Loma is from Papachenko, because you have someone for 2 months saying you, hey, you are doing this wrong, do it again, and stopping and sparring and saying you, hey, that's wrong, correct it, and it's, I don't know, te está taladrando la mente todo el tiempo para que vos hagas las cosas bien. So to have a corner with all of that skills is the best.
Pero también vamos a decir esto, porque también para mí a AJ le dan mucha más vaina a AJ. AJ gets more shit than anybody, and I like that Mario brought it up, that a lot of the rematches that took place, some of them took over a year to bring about, where we're riding AJ's ass over a couple of weeks or a couple of months. It's not fair is what I'm saying.
I got you.
Yeah. It's not fit. Like, I'm like, yo, dog, look at Wilder's shit. Look at how long it took to get Adam Kovnowski and Robert Helenius back in the ring.
Yeah. I wish we would have done this one earlier, because I would have loved everyone, but Beeb especially, to know which trainer y'all think could give AJ the best shot.
Joey Gamache. It's Joey Gamache. I've been saying it for weeks. It's Joey Gamache.
Beeb, who you think? Real quick, I know I don't want to extend, but I'm just interested who you think.
I would have liked to see him with I don't know if I wanted to see him with Ronnie Shields. Buddy McGirt. I like Buddy McGirt.
Okay.
I'm a big Buddy McGirt fan.
Buddy wins him that fight.
Yeah.
Buddy wins him because Buddy knows how to take an already finished product and what parts that he's good at to focus on. That's how he got Kovalev, the WBO title back. That's how he got Callum Smith. He went in there with Leonard Castillo. He cold slept him. Leonard
I'm a big Buddy McGirt fan.
Buddy is a hell of a guy.
He even had Derek Chisora looking pretty good, and that was after like only a short amount of time with him, because he just kind of fine-tuned the strategy for Del Boy, and Del Boy pretty good.
I didn't think this would be such a long topic, man. I mean, this is pretty interesting, man.
But I'll say, and I've said it before, I would pick Mark Ramsey to be AJ's coach if I was
Ooh, Mark Ramsey.
Ooh, I like that.
Offensive-minded coach, which is what AJ needs. He applies consistent pressure as a strategy with all of his fighters.
Understands distance really well.
Understands distance very well. And honestly, you got to get AJ out of the UK and out of the English language media market and just isolate him a little bit there in Quebec. For all those reasons, I've been saying Mark Ramsey for like the last year as a great trainer for AJ. Also, he's not an ego guy. Like I saw him, taking photos with Floyd. When has Floyd ever put anyone before himself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As if Floyd is going to be a good trainer for AJ, because it's going to be all about Floyd. It's not going to be about AJ.
Good point.
Listen,
You
they
know?
need to make AJ sleep in a meat locker for 6 months, all right? Keep it at a very cold 60 degrees. He doesn't get to see people. He doesn't get to have his phone. He don't get a razor for his beard. Just keep him in there. Time he comes out of there, he's going to bite Usyk's head clean off his fucking shoulder.
All right, we'll wrap it up here. We'll leave it at that. We'll wrap it up. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Drew, thank you so much for the super chat. Said no trainer is going to help AJ beat a Capricorn born on the same day as Ali. Usyk will be undisputed. Thank you guys for a great discussion. It's been a pleasure. And until next time, signing off. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you
one.
so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care, guys.